sometimes when I'm talking to customers, I kind of like the phrase, you can network like a hyperscaler. You've got access to the technologies and the teams that are building these super advanced systems.
Hi everyone, I'm delighted today to be joined by Matt Roman, who is Senior Director of Product Line Management at Celestica. So welcome, Matt. And today we're going to follow up on my recent chat with Don Evans. We're going to take a deeper dive into Celestica's portfolio systems group and the strategy. We learn about some of the advantages of open networking, how EPS Global and Celestica can help with some of the challenges, how Celestica's supply chain expertise is a competitive advantage, the convergence of storage and networking, and finally how Celestica can help companies achieve ESG goals. So Matt, we've known each other for quite a while, and I know you've been in the networking industry for many, many years now. So tell us a little bit about your background and experience in networking.
Sure. So thank you, Alan, for having me. Pleasure to be here. So I lead the product and solutions marketing team for Celestica, and specifically for the Celestica, we call it portfolio products, or the Celestica branded products. Prior to that, my whole career has been at networking OEM companies, Extreme Networks and Terrasys. You can see by my gray hair, I've been doing this a long time, going all the way back to Cabletron Systems back a very long time ago in the early days of networking. So
okay, cool. So a little bit about the portfolio systems group then. So it was founded on the principle of rapid delivery for the channel and for enterprise. So how has that been going? And as the group matures, is the strategy evolving beyond just the speed of delivery?
It is, for sure. So we've made a big investment, certainly in people, to form a dedicated sales team, establishing relationships with vendors like EPS Global, so channel partners that have value-added capabilities, not just distribution, but have technical capabilities. I think one of the other big areas that we've found to be a big competitive advantage is our investment in product and inventory. So having products on the shelves available, whether that's Celestica product or whether that's through partners like EPS. And I would say the last thing is an investment in manufacturing capabilities. So this group, all of the products that we're talking about, we've got a brand new dedicated manufacturing facility in Kuala, Malaysia.
Okay, great. In open networking, right, and a core tenet of Celestica's and in general in open networking is providing customers with choice in hardware and software. And while it's great to have that choice, it sometimes creates what we call the tyranny of choice, particularly for enterprises that are new to disaggregation. How is Celestica helping customers navigate that landscape?
Yeah, it's a great question, because the sort of the cross-section of customers varies greatly. So, certainly some of the early adopters, very technically savvy customers, they know open source software, they know networking, they have a very clear vision of how they want to put those pieces together, what their use case is, what problem they're trying to solve. So, in some of those cases, we may just be providing basic hardware and some basic support and firmware. And then, there are other customers that want, a bit more of an integrated solution. So they may have something, more turnkey, but they still want to, avoid that lock-in, that proprietary lock-in. So the customers are quite different, but we pride ourselves on being flexible, listen to the customer, and provide options that that ultimately satisfies the goals, the strategic goals for these companies.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to the evolution of open networking. Well, it started with the hyperscalers, and the hyperscalers have their own technical teams and their own engineers. And I think a lot of the value that I see EPS Global bringing is helping those tier 2, tier 3 and enterprises figure out the open networking piece. Because the choice piece, it is great, until you give somebody an ADL with 40 different switches on it, 100 different optics, and tell, you figure out which ones you want.
Exactly.
We've
seen some customers that start with very ambitious goals, so they want to do it all, whether it's sonic or preloading or integration, and they some of them come to the realization that they're not ready for it, or they just don't want to do that. So we can provide a more tailored solution, a more turnkey solution, or our partners can provide that service for them as well.
Okay, great. Just moving on to cost then, and the total cost of ownership, or the TCO benefits of open networking. They're a key driver for adoption. But moving beyond the initial hardware savings, which are substantial, where are you seeing customers achieve the most significant operational savings and long-term value when they adopt the open model?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it ties back to automation, and I think that's also one of the things that's for some customers that can be a bit of a challenge, right? So a lot of these networks are run by traditional network engineers that are very much Cisco CLI, kind of hands-on in that type, and really where the hyperscalers found success, or the more advanced enterprises found success, is using automation tools, Ansible playbooks, Puppet, Chef, those sorts of things. So the customers that we've worked with that have kind of adopted that sort of DevOps tool set, have great savings. They can automate everything from what happens when you plug in a box. It can image the system properly. It can do a site-specific configuration, monitoring, management, inventory, all of those sorts of things. So I would say definitely on the operational side, that automation is really key.
Okay, right. So we know that your go-to-market strategy relies on strong partnerships. You mentioned the partnership with us, and those partnerships help you to deliver complete solutions. From your perspective, what's the most critical value a partner like EPS Global brings? And again, especially through when guiding an enterprise through the first steps that they take into open networking.
Yeah, so we've had a very conscious effort to in terms of who we're partnering with, and there's an immediate sort of reaction to go after the biggest and largest integrators or distributors, but that doesn't really align with the state of open disaggregated networking. As you said earlier, customers need help, they need assistance. So really. The partners need to have a technical capability. They need to be able to do consultative, and in a lot of cases, just value-added services. We kind of refer to it as second touch. So if somebody needs certain software loads installed, or if it's a multi-site or a branch location, you want that product to arrive pre-configured with the right software, ready to go. So an unskilled person or technician can just kind of rack it, power it, plug in the cables, and go. So I think it's really that technical capability and certainly for you guys, the logistical capability and the worldwide reach.
Right. Yeah, it's something that we're very proud of, actually. And I mentioned it many times, and I think when I spoke with Don as well, that we're very proud of the fact that Celestica would choose to work with us. We've done a lot of work over the last decade in the open networking space, and I think we've come across each other, over that decade, and it's great to be at a point where when a company with the stature of Celestica wants to enter this market, it's us that they choose to enter it with, and so we thank you for that. Looking at future data center trends, then power consumption and advanced cooling are clearly really, really important. How is Celestica innovating in these areas, and can you discuss any specific design philosophies or technologies that you're implementing, to help customers build sustainable infrastructure?
Yeah, that is definitely a hot topic for almost every customer we talk to. So there's a few things. I mean, certainly as optimized a design as possible, whether it's power systems, PCB layout, optimized thermal, airflow, that sort of thing. Certainly the newest piece where we're seeing advances is with alternative cooling. So liquid cooling, whether that's pump to phase or immersion. And certainly for some of the large hyperscalers we design for and manufacture for. We've done 3 generations of liquid cooling.
It's really interesting seeing the liquid cooling stuff in the flesh. You know, I've been to, I've seen it many times now at exhibitions, and it feels like there's going to be a need for plumbers. So, I mean, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, you look at these large integrated racks. You know, the notion of you need to have leak detection sensors, and what happens if if you get a leak in the fluid, and even when you're removing components from a rack, how can you ensure that you can disconnect without any of the fluid coming out? So it's a whole plumbing.
It's amazing looking stuff. Yeah, very good. So talking about software then, and when you guys provide the open hardware platform, the software integration and long-term support are critical to build confidence for enterprises. How deep does Celestica's involvement go with network operating systems like Sonic? And do you contribute directly to open source community? And what is your validation and testing process like?
Yeah, great question. So we have a few different models that we use. So as I mentioned before, we've got some customers that are very sophisticated that use pure community Sonic. They go to the GitHub. They get the software themselves, or in some cases we have advanced customers that have their own network operating system based on open source or even their own proprietary. Another model on the NOS side is Celestica has a big investment in community Sonic. So we test, validate, bug fix, and upstream into the Sonic community. And then the other offering is we work closely with Broadcom. So we resell the Broadcom enterprise distribution of Sonic as well. So we try to help guide customers to understand, what are their needs, what are their use cases, what problems are they trying to solve, and try to help them choose the best solution for them.
Okay.
And we do have a big investment in automated test, and there's just a lot of feature development. There's new releases coming, so it's not. Sometimes people may think of Celestica as more hardware focused, but we've got a very large software team that's testing and validating all this stuff.
Great. And as open networking is maturing and as the market is getting bigger and bigger, like any market, it starts to get crowded, right? So we're seeing more and more hardware vendors enter this market. Beyond Celestica's your well-known manufacturing excellence, what would you say is your biggest technical or strategic differentiator in the market?
Yeah, so there's a few things that come to mind. First, a lot of Celestica's growth is being fueled by our hyperscale customers, their investments in AI. And we've just got a fantastic track record of winning joint design wins and the manufacturing. So, all of the top 5 or 10 of the world's largest hyperscalers are awarding us business and for latest generation technologies, and that's because of our technical capabilities, our ability to move fast, to have agility, to deliver on time with high quality, and to be able to service that and provide the logistics. So that's one piece, and sometimes when I'm talking to customers, I kind of like the phrase, you can network like a hyperscaler. You've got access to the technologies and the teams that are building these super advanced systems. And then, the other piece is just the strength and stability of Celestica. We're a $10 billion company. We're headquartered here in North America. We've got a global reach, so logistics, supply chain, and even aftermarket. So the ITAD capability, decommissioning those products. So we've got a pretty broad capability.
And I think that's a really important message, because I feel like, having been around this space for quite a while, some people feel like if they're going to enter into open networking, they're taking a bit of a leap of faith, right? Mm-hmm. There's a comfort around like a Cisco or a Juniper, and it's like, there's a lot of risk involved in this. There's really not, right? The apps that we all use like every day, and like you said, the top hyperscalers, they're using this right now. Yeah. This is not like, we're not looking for guinea pigs here. Yeah. This is proven technology that is working.
Exactly right.
Okay. A key barrier to open networking, again in the enterprise, keep getting back to the enterprise, and like in the hyperscalers, because the hyperscalers have the resources to make this work, but there's often a perceived skills gap. And how are Celestica and, along with partners like us, working to productize open networking to make it more accessible to those customers and less of an operational challenge for a traditional IT team?
Yeah, I think there's a few things just in terms of how do you receive the product, right? So for some companies that notion of here's a white box, if you will, and then there's some software, and then I need a management stack on top of that. So being able to provide a more turnkey type solution is certainly one thing, and we can do that, and obviously you guys have capabilities to do that as well. And then back to the sort of off-box software suite, the automation that I mentioned previously. So that sort of DevOps type tools, really make it much easier to operate. And again, that's really how the hyperscalers had success and made all this work. So I think it'll definitely take some time for a more traditional enterprise to get that skill set. But certainly what we've seen, and when we're talking to customers, a lot of these enterprises are recruiting and hiring from either hyperscalers or tier 2 or tier 3 cloud operators that have that expertise.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had conversations over the last while, and there's that old saw that people talk about. No one ever got fired for buying IBM, and people use it now in network. Oh, no one ever got fired for buying Cisco. That's changed. People are getting fired now for buying Cisco or for being reluctant to embrace the change to open networking. I think there's so much at stake. If we look at large enterprises like a Walmart, right, who have done exactly that, they've taken in expertise from people who've been working in open networking for a while. So if you're a CTO and you're determined not to embrace open networking, you better be looking over your shoulder, right? Because it's coming.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're talking to customers every day that are, their strategic direction is to move away from proprietary closed systems for any number of reasons. But there is definitely movement there.
The advantages are too great to ignore for any length of time. Getting back to Celestica's, manufacturing expertise goes back a long, long time, and that supply chain expertise was a huge advantage during the recent component shortages. The supply chain has become a little bit more stable now, and how has that strategy evolved, and how do you continue to leverage your manufacturing depth to provide resilience and predictability?
Yeah, we're so fortunate to have a world-class supply chain team, and certainly COVID and all of those shortages, kind of changed the landscape and how vendors operate and how suppliers operate.
We saw that a lot, and we had numerous examples where potential customers that we've been trying to get into and had been speaking to them for years. They were happy enough doing what they were doing. COVID opened up opportunities, that supply chain crunch, because the lead times from the regular vendors got pushed out so far. They were willing to take a look at open networking, and they really saw the advantages. And it was lead time that got us in the door. Once they saw all the advantages of open networking, there was no turning back.
And the other thing, and certainly a number of different components. The lead times have relaxed considerably, but some of the strategic silicon that's powering our platforms, some of those vendors, their lead times are still 52 weeks. So it certainly takes a lot of good communication, with our partners, with end users to understand what that is, but it also takes an investment on our part, on Celestica's part as a system builder to go drive that material and try to, we try to run as lean and optimally as possible, but in some cases you still need to, kind of make some bets and some predictions and, tune your model. But definitely COVID, it definitely changed the landscape.
Yeah, it did. So we've seen Celestica's success with high performance storage, and we actually had a recent win ourselves here in partnership with you, and that was in the financial sector. As data intensive workloads grow, How do you see the relationship between high-performance networking and high-performance storage evolving? Are you seeing more customer demand, for integrated storage and networking solutions?
For sure, yes, and certainly at a rack level, for that type of requirement or for that use case. I'll say the other trend we're seeing is the need or the requirement to have acceleration in a storage platform. So instead of just being PCI connected, they want it network connected. And for platforms like a JBOD or a JBOF, which we always kind of thought of as just a dumb box,
just a bunch of drives.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But the need to be able to support a platform like DPU accelerator cards, so that in some cases you don't necessarily need a traditional x86 server or controller built into the storage array. You can use these accelerator cards to basically offload that and do that advanced packet processing or whatever the use case is. So we're seeing sort of PCI, Ethernet with accelerator cards being integrated into JBOD and JBOF platforms.
Okay, great. So we touched a little bit earlier on sustainability, and I just want to get a little bit deeper into that. And it's sustainability. It's really a board level conversation now in most enterprises. And beyond raw power efficiency, how does Celestica's hardware designs and manufacturing process contribute to broader environmental, social, and governance goals?
Yeah, and that's a really big topic. But certainly a few things that come to mind. Beyond just designing a piece of hardware as efficiently as possible, but within we've got worldwide manufacturing locations all around the world. Definitely a focus, and we've got specific targets on greenhouse gases, water reuse and water management, and then sustainable products and services. So we've got a very capable offering where we work with large hyperscalers, large enterprises to work with them when, all right, the product is nearing its end of life. What do you do with this stuff?
Right.
So in some cases it's decommissioning that, refurbishing that, and we're reselling into secondary markets, or in some cases component harvesting and reuse there, or in some cases just sustain or responsibly disposing of the product.
Yeah.
And that's really, as you said, top of mind, for many large corporations, and they've got specific targets and goals, and things like carbon credit programs.
Yeah. And even in the day-to-day operationally, we've seen it ourselves, and when we've put in open networking solutions, very often they outform significantly the traditional monolithic solutions that were out there. So I think even that on a day-to-day basis contributes. This was a great conversation, Matt. I really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully it's beneficial to the audience here. But thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.